You're 6 years old, you have never been told what not to eat, because there's no language yet to tell you. You're standing in a forest full of plants you have never seen. Some will fill your stomach. Some will make your heart stop. Some will burn your throat from the inside. Some will kill you in an hour. Some will kill you in 3 days. And nothing in the forest is labeled. This is the problem every human ancestor faced for 300,000 years. No pharmacology, no warning labels, no poison control. Just a world packed with chemicals designed in many cases, specifically to kill anything that tried to consume them. And yet somehow they figured it out. Not just figured it out. They built a body of botanical knowledge so precise and so accurate that when Western scientists finally caught up to it in the 20th century, they found that indigenous communities had been correct about plant properties for thousands of years. So how? The first answer is that your body already knew. Human beings have 25 distinct bitter taste receptors. For context, dogs have 16. Nearly every toxic compound produced by plants is an alkaloid, a chemical defense evolved specifically to deter consumption, and almost every alkaloid tastes bitter. Your tongue is a chemical detection system refined over 60 million years of primate evolution. When something bitter hits your tongue, you do not decide to spit it out. You just do. The reflex fires faster than conscious thought. It bypasses the prefrontal cortex entirely. The system is that old and that important. But taste alone was not enough. Some of the most lethal compounds in nature have no taste at all. Some taste mildly sweet. Some taste like nothing. So the body developed a second system. In 1966, psychologist John Garcia published a study that rewrote how scientists understood learning. He discovered that rats who ate a novel food and were made sick afterward would develop a powerful aversion to that exact food after just one experience. Not 10 repetitions, one. And that aversion was nearly impossible to extinguish. What made this extraordinary was the timing. The sickness could come hours after eating, and the aversion still formed with perfect precision. Every other form of learning known at the time required a consequence to follow an action within seconds. The brain's food sickness system operated on a completely different clock. We call it conditioned taste aversion. It is one of the most powerful learning mechanisms in nature. Your ancestors did not need to die to learn. They needed to get sick once. One afternoon of vomiting encoded a precise permanent memory of exactly what caused it. The smell, the texture, the color, the specific combination of everything about that food, locked in for life. But neither biology nor individual memory was enough on its own. The real answer was the group. A single person can only eat so many plants in a lifetime. A single person can only survive so many mistakes. But a group of 150 people across 10 generations can accumulate an extraordinary pharmacological library. One person's death was not a tragedy that ended at their grave. It was information. The group watched what happened. They remembered. They told the story. The story became a warning. The warning became a rule. The rule became a ritual. The ritual became the culture. Do not touch the red berries near the stream in late summer. That single instruction was worth more than any amount of individual trial and error, and it was passed not as a list of facts but as a story, because stories were how this information survived. But then there is cassava. Cassava is a root vegetable that became a dietary staple for millions of people across South America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. It is also, in its raw form, packed with hydrogen cyanide, enough to kill you. The preparation method developed by Amazonian tribes involves peeling, grating, soaking in water for up to 3 days, pressing out the liquid, and drying before cooking. The full process can take 72 hours. Nobody stumbled onto this by accident. You cannot accidentally discover a 72-hour preparation sequence. Someone had to observe that people got sick, then observe that people who processed it differently got less sick. Then systematically test which steps mattered. Then teach those steps to the next person, and make sure that person taught them too. This was not luck. This was not instinct. This was empirical research, conducted without laboratories, without writing, without instruments, but research. And they were not only learning what not to eat, they were learning what to eat when they were already hurt. In 2017, a study published in Nature examined calcified dental plaque from Neanderthal, remains found in El Cedron cave in Spain dating back 48,000 years. They found traces of poplar in one individual who appeared to have had a severe dental abscess. Poplar bark contains salicylic acid, the same compound that is the active ingredient in aspirin. They had identified a painkiller tens of thousands of years before chemistry existed to explain why it worked. And it went deeper still. Anthropologist Kristen Hawkes spent years studying how food knowledge moved through hunter-gatherer communities. Her conclusion pointed to a figure most people overlook entirely. The grandmother, post-menopausal women in these communities were not just providers of food. They were living libraries of food safety knowledge, which plants were safe only in certain seasons, which preparation methods neutralized which toxins, which combinations were dangerous, which mushrooms looked identical but were not. They had decades of direct observation that no younger adult could match. Hawkes argued that human menopause, which is unique among primates, may have evolved in part to preserve exactly this function. You do not need to reproduce to carry knowledge. You only need to survive long enough to pass it on. So here's what actually happened. Your body screened the obvious poisons. A single bad experience locked the specific threat into memory for life. The group caught what the individual missed, and the grandmother remembered what the group forgot. It was a four-layer system: biological, neurological, social, and generational, each layer doing what the others could not. Together, they built one of the most sophisticated bodies of practical knowledge ever accumulated by a species that had not yet invented writing. And then we handed all of it to a supply chain. Today, the average person cannot identify 20 edible plants within a mile of their home, cannot name what makes a mushroom lethal, cannot describe a single traditional method for removing toxins from food. We outsourced 300,000 years of hard-won knowledge to factories and ingredient labels and decided the system would hold. Our ancestors knew every plant within 50 miles of their camp, not from books, from memory, from story, from loss. They paid for that knowledge with their lives and the lives of people they loved. And they made sure every payment was remembered.